Everybody, and it's actually the morning, not evening today, and we are recording the webinar that we had a bit of a technical glitch on from a couple of weeks ago. So today we've got Tim, who is the farm manager at Wantersden Hall Farm, managing 1,940 acres, of which 1,350 acres is arable. The farm consists of a range of crops, including potatoes, onions, carrots, lettuce, and asparagus. The remaining land comprises of woodland, agri-environmental schemes and permanent pasture. The farm has an early lambing flock of 350 pedigree Dorset ewes, and Tim incorporates the livestock into the arable rotation to enhance the soil fertility, manage the cover crops and promote sustainability across all the enterprises on the farm. So I'll hand over to Tim to tell you how he integrates his sheep into his arable and horticultural farming system. Over to you, Tim.
Thanks, Katie. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I'm farm manager or director at Wantersden Hall Farms. I've sort of been here 20 years now, so I've sort of stayed here. I know the system quite well now, to be fair. So a rough bit of background on myself. So originally born in Worcester. My father and my grandfather were farming together. We moved down to Devon quite young. And I'm really a dairy farmer's son from down in Devon. I did an MBQ at Duchy, then went to Harper and did a land management course there, a degree there. During that time, went to Canada and did a placement on a big beef cattle ranch and was cowboy for a year, which is quite good. Came back, finished off obviously my degree, and was then going to go and do a ski season, and ended up coming to Suffolk as a temporary measure, realistically, and have never left. So that was in 2001, and I'm still here now, basically. So I started originally on a farm next door, Westret Farming, similar sort of business to what I'm on now. I was there sort of 5 years, and then a position came up at Wantersden, and I started there in 2006, basically. So the farm has quite a broad range of cropping, realistically. So we're really on the east coast of Suffolk. So we farm up to the sea pretty much. So our land is very light, blowing black sand and yellow sand. Really, it's not good for a lot of things apart from veg. And actually, that's where we specialize in, I suppose. So we're really trying for an early production of crops. So early onions, early potatoes, early carrots. They're our main enterprise, I suppose. Potatoes are a big one. So we're growing 550 acres worth of potatoes. And actually, we're growing a few more onions than that now. We're growing about 400 acres, I suppose, of onions as well. 50 hectares of carrots and things. So yeah, we're quite a sizable operation now. We do rent out a bit of asparagus, so we do have sort of 40 odd hectares of that. We have an AD plant, which I'll touch on a bit later. So we grow a lot of maize for that. And obviously we grow a few winter cereals, a few spring cereals, sprouts, sugar beet, bits of legume fallow on some heavier contract land we farm, and then the sheep as well. So our farm is roughly half owned and half contract farmed. So we're farming sort of just under 4,000 acres total. And of that, it's roughly 50-50 of owned and contract farmed. Sheep wise, which is obviously why we're here today, and the livestock, I suppose, we have a flock of about 350 breeding ewes, which we lamb in September, actually. But we also have about between 16 and 1,800 sheep we have on winter keep as well, basically through the winter time, which actually works quite nicely. We have a lot of cover crops, which I'll come on to in a bit, but it works quite nicely. It keeps boys busy, so it's quite good, and it helps with my my livestock orientation, I suppose. Rather than always being veg, I quite like a bit of livestock in the system. Just a few pictures so you can see roughly what we're doing. So early lifted carrots, we start lifting early English carrots in about the 10th of June. that's normally the first sort of harvesting we do. So we plant those. Well, we normally try and plant those now, if I'm honest. So January, February, we start planting our crops. So onion sets will go in January, and then carrots will start planting in January, February, realistically. Come March the 1st, we then turn over. Hopefully, all the carrots and onions are in or sets. We then start on potatoes, drilled onions, and then on sugar beet, and then onto maize, basically. So it works quite nicely. Just potatoes. You can see the sort of land we have. It's quite sort of like parts of Norfolk, the brecks and things. So lots of fir trees. As wind breaks, wind can be a real problem for us, particularly sort of that April, May time when crops are just coming up or just emerging. The wind can be really nasty, and we have to be quite careful. So some cover crops are grown within crops to try and help alleviate any issues we have from that. Spud planting, so I just put a few more pictures in of tractors and machinery, but yeah, so our spuds we start lifting right at the end of May, early June, all into boxes, all for the fresh produce, so all for the supermarkets. We supply basically all the supermarkets on a contract on a daily basis. Basically, we supply them, so everything's into boxes, back to the farm, off onto a lorry to the packer, basically. So everything's lifted to order on a daily basis. So yeah. Onion drilling on the left, and then we also do bits and bobs. I just put that in there. That was obviously the detectionist, actually. So right in the middle, you can see Mackenzie Crook and Toby. I can't think of his surname now. Toby, somebody. We do a bit of filming on the farm, so I just put that in there. A few more bits and bobs, but yes, you can sort of see the light land. It's really poor for cereals, and I suppose that's where our business has gone from. Sort of, you know, our veg was obviously very important, but in between, it was those other crops in between we really struggled with. So we were growing lots of barley and things, but in a dry year, we really struggled with yields. And so actually that has now been taken out, and really we're growing maize in replace of most of that. So that actually the AD plant for us on our airfield has actually worked really quite nicely. Onion store, so we store our own onions, all in letterbox system. So we store basically from harvest all the way through to sort of April, May, June time. Environmental. So originally the sheep came because of our environmental stewardship. The pigs I wanted to introduce already. Well, they had just been introduced into rotation about 4 years after I came to the farm. I wanted to bring pigs into rotation, so we brought pigs into our lightland rotation. Of course, that helps give me a nice rental income, I suppose, rather than growing barley, which is very variable. And also did a number of other things with fertility and volunteers and everything else, basically. But the sheep were really the introduction of sheep was really through the HLS. Now, we could get obviously a native breed supplement for our Dorset horns. So the sheep initially came through that. So I put that in there because obviously nowadays, every bit of government funding you can try and get hold of, the better, realistically. So the HLS was the original reason why we ended up getting some sheep. And so that's where it's all come from, I suppose. We have a big woodland, triple high woodland. That's all fenced as a pastoral woodland, so we graze the sheep in there in the summer. And actually, once weaning is finished, sort of, we wean at Christmas time. Realistically, the ewes actually go in there for a couple of months just to dry off pre-topping in April. We've got quite a lot of environmental areas, so SAC. We're obviously a catchment centre farming area, and obviously water for us is a major thing. So water and irrigation is vitally important. We use huge volumes of water, and actually it's so important for us. Water is our main it's a big worry, but it's really important for us. Without water, we don't grow crops, basically. So water is quite crucial to everything we do. And we do, obviously, we are a leaf demonstration farm. We do that, a number of farm visits and school visits throughout the year, basically. Some of the lakes, all man-made, but actually now after 20, 30 years actually look quite lovely. Irrigation, obviously, I'll just flick through these because it's not hugely relevant, but I thought I'd just put that there. New reservoir, another reservoir, 2020 we built. So lots of investment, continual investment, basically, going forward. I just come on to our rotation. So basically, our rotations really revolve around our veg crops, our potatoes, our onions, and our carrots. And then whatever gets infilled in between those is obviously maize or sugar beet or something else, basically, whether it's on a rental basis on a yearly agreement or something else, basically. So our main rotation revolves around our veg crops, basically. We try and do a 1 in 6 years. So potatoes every 1 in 6, and carrots 1 in 6 or 7, ideally. But that's our plan. Pigs rotate obviously within that. So often we'll have 2 years of pigs, 1 year of onions, and then potatoes, then carrots, and then a maize or something, and then back into pigs, basically. So something along those lines. Our light land is obviously very poor organic matter. It's really a medium for growing veg, and we supply everything it needs. Even when we apply manure year after year after year, our organic matter is particularly poor. It's 1%, basically, 1.1s, 0.9s. It's around that sort of figure, basically. So pretty poor, but we do have quite good P's and K's. The pigs particularly add quite a lot of value to us with fertility. And if anything, we have to be careful we don't have too much P within our system, because pigs can lead quite a lot. So generally following a pig, or 2 years of pigs, we will actually have our indices will raise by 1 on everything PK and MG. So they do add quite a lot. And for us, the pigs obviously also enable us to sort of clear up any break crops and everything else, basically, or any PCN and issues we have with potatoes. Pigs, obviously, as I said, so we roughly have about 40 hectares of pigs at any one time, and they're a mixture, obviously, dry sow fields and farrowing fields. They generally work quite well. The summer months, it's lovely, but obviously at this time of year when it's really wet and miserable, it's quite hard work. We don't deal with any of it, luckily. It's a third-party independent guy who's really quite good. And yeah, it works quite well for us, to be fair. Yeah, I mentioned really, I suppose the benefits of the pigs are soil organic matter, increased fertility, volunteer potatoes, and it's a better rental income than barley, realistically. Obviously, they do leave a mess. There is runoff, and there are lots of seagulls and rooks and soil erosion we have. But between, we just have to be managed. We have to manage that carefully, and we have to make sure that we put them on the right fields, I suppose. And the more we've had them around, we understand where the issues arrive, so we can make sure we try and alleviate those problems. So in front of pigs, we always plant grass as an underlay. So all the pig fields will have grass. Admittedly, that grass will be gone within 2 months, probably, because the pigs will just eat it all up and just root it all up. But we start off with, and at least the grass stays within all the tracks, edges of the field, so at least if there is any erosion, it keeps it within the field, ideally. Sheep. So this really what we obviously came to discuss, I suppose, and talk about is the sheep within our rotation. So within SFI, well, for a long time, our business has, because we're so spring orientated, we have lots of bare land over winter time. So I wanted to try and utilize more of that bare land where we weren't doing anything. And that's the reason, I suppose, we went with the Dorsets, because not only could we get with the horns, we could get native breed, but admittedly, I have a small number of those and the rest of them are polled. So actually, our aim is to lamb 100% of our ewes in September and October. So that's my main aim, because realistically, we start harvesting fields in June, and that field might not go back into another veg crop until the following March, April. So we have a long time that field is just left empty. So for us, we wanted a crop we could put in after it, and try and utilize it. And that's where the sheep came in, I suppose. So we lamb outside on grass so we have about 30 acres of grassland at the moment in 4 fields. So we don't have loads of grassland at all. We have a big park, but it's very unproductive. So we lamb outside in fields in September and October, and they basically stay on grass for probably 6 to 8 weeks. And then after that, the lambs and the ewes would go into cover crops, which have been sown in June, July, August. So we actually plant quite a lot of cover crops now. The ewes and lambs will stay on cover crops all the way through then, or the lambs will stay on all the way through till probably April time. The ewes come off at Christmas time when they're weaned, and we'll go into the park and just literally live off not a lot for a month or so, and then back onto cover crop to try and flush them a bit pre-tupping. So it's relatively straightforward, and actually the sheep really enjoy the cover crops. They get mixed around a bit, they get moved around a bit, and actually we've got to be careful. Our big cost is moving sheep around, really. Because we have no nice central farm base, we have to be very careful of trying to block areas where we know we can put 500 lambs or whatever, and we can rotate them round that block over the wintertime, fatten them in time, and then sell them again, basically. So that's what we've got to be a bit careful with. Also, lambing obviously in September, so the lambs generally won't get any worm, they won't have any fly issues, and so they're actually gone off the farm really quite quickly. So we start killing lambs. So we start lambing on the 5th of September, and we start killing lambs on about the 5th or 10th of January, realistically. We'll have our first draw of lambs. There'll be mainly singles, and they all go on a Waitrose contract to Wales, basically. So we have a lorry collect lambs once every fortnight, and we get rid of them from sort of early Jan all the way through till basically our last lambs will go at Easter time. Our Dorset ewe, we probably have about 20% which are empty to lamb in September. Because it is a strange time of year lambing, not all of them will go to the ram. And there's no real rhyme or reason, to be fair, because some ewes will go one year and then not the next year. So we do end up having, say, 30 or 40 lamb in November, December time as well. They do come in and they are lambed inside, and then they go back out into cover crop quite quickly. And realistically, they're the lambs we then sell just before Easter. We weighed them this week, and actually we've got lambs at sort of 38 kilos now, so we're not silly far off. On our Waitrose contract, they sort of want lambs a maximum of 22 kilos dead weight. And actually our first draw of lambs, which, as I say, probably mainly singles, all killed out a U3L and all at 22 kilos or above. Luckily we weren't we didn't have a knock on being overweight, which is quite handy, realistically. That first draw is always a bit tricky because inevitably you have lambs which are too big. Our store lambs, we actually do on a B&B. So we have them down from sort of Yorkshire, and we look after them from somebody else. So realistically, they come from him to us. We then draw them every fortnight from sort of mid-Jan onwards, and we'll sell 300 every week on normally all the way through, and our last lambs will go normally towards the end of February, basically. And that's how that works. Our numbers have increased quite a lot, I suppose, in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. And really, I suppose the sheep on the home farm are the Dorsets as such, and they're covering all the lambs over here on the main farm. But our contract farms, that's where we put all our store lambs. And really, that's come about purely, really, I think, because of the SFI agreement. So we've obviously opted for a lot of cover crops within the systems. And so we're able to lightly graze those fields. So that's what we do, basically. And we have a big enough area we can rotate them around. And that really is it's all pre-sugar beet and pre-maize. So that's quite useful on those bits of land. The ewe lambs we keep, obviously, and we sell. So the sheep, we'll keep all the females apart from ones we sort of don't like or have defects. And then the rest of them we'll keep for the breeding, and we'll sell at society sales. Yeah, so we're Signet recorded. I've mentioned most of this and what we do, basically. Yeah, so we're Signet recorded. So we do record our flock, and we try and do as much as we can with figures. It's still one which I still battle with sometimes because my best looking lambs aren't always my highest figured lambs, but yeah, I'm slowly getting my way around that. Just a few little pictures, some Dorset horns we had and some lambing, and we actually supplied the sheep for Latitude Festival where we dyed them pink for the summer. That's always quite amusing because they have quite a nice time for a week up there. And then cover crops, I suppose. So we do, because we claim a lot of them for SFI, we obviously have to have quite a good mix with them. So we do have the one on the right, the picture on the right is obviously quite a mix of kale, rape, turnips, peas, chicory, and bits of clover. So it's all sorts. There's obviously some phacelia in there as well, and there's plenty of weed in there as well. But do you know what I mean? We do quite a big area, and the sheep actually, you know, the Dorsets actually do quite a nice job of clearing all that up, to be fair. The we do grow some fields purely stubble turnips because with the store lambs we know we can actually get a big number of lambs to fatten quite well on stubble turnips. So it's always, we do have quite an area of purely stubble turnips, just purely because we know we can put big volumes of lambs on and we can fatten them quite well realistically, and they'll last a long time. Just a few more pictures of the Dorsets. Obviously the top right picture there, we've obviously got some black oats and bits and bobs in there which we graze. So we've tried all sorts over the years and different mixes. Yeah, and I'm still experimenting because depending on what you're growing, following crops and what you're growing in the rotation, that could have an effect on it. It's really difficult to quite decide what is best and what isn't best realistically. But yeah, and then also we graze anything we can, which is left over from the veg or the sugar beet and things. So we graze sugar beet once we've harvested it, because inevitably there's some left in the field. And these lambs, bottom left, are actually grazing some spring greens we were harvesting. We've cut what we want, and then we've just grazed them on that afterwards. And that's like rocket fuel. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. We have also been involved with Innovate a Breed for Change, which is a 3-year funded project assessing methane production within the lambs and the sheep. So we've actually just done the last chamber testing this year. So yeah, so every lamb, well, not every lamb, but we do about 140 odd lambs every year go through it, complete randomization process, and they go through it, and at the same time a DNA sample is taken from every lamb, and then that's all shipped off to New Zealand for DNA sequencing and tell us as much information as we can. I haven't had a lot of information back yet, but that's in the process, so we'll understand a little bit more about that in the future, I think, and there'll be more discussion, I think, coming up about that. Staffing wise, which is sort of what I wanted to include in it really, was is how the sheep actually and the livestock have actually worked quite well with our staffing and our peaks and our highs and lows within our work profile. So realistically, most of the guys and girls, I should say, are pretty busy on the farm most of the time, because obviously we're harvesting nearly every month. We're planting or harvesting nearly every month of the year, but we do have some quiet times. Now we do have 2 people who basically are quite happy to do some sheep work. So sort of 1.5 people are on sheep during the winter time. So that actually works quite nicely. Well, from September, realistically, 1 drops back onto sheep, and then come this time of year, we try and then have 1.5 just to help out fencing and things. So for a work profile, it's worked very nicely having the lambing in September, because realistically, all the work required with lambs is done in the winter months, and then come the 1st of April, when the tuck then goes back in with the ewes, all the lambs are gone, and that person then goes on to helping with potato planting, irrigation, all those sort of things, and realistically works on veg all the summer then, and then back to lambing in September. So for as a work profile, it's quite good. I think finding guys or people to do that is quite difficult sometimes, and labour is one of our big not a big issue, but I think it's very much in our minds, because we have Sizewell power station being built as well at the moment, so we have a real drag for staff and people requirement for Sizewell, who are paying, I don't know, £24 an hour for doing nothing realistically. So there is a temptation, I think, for some people to go up there. We haven't lost anybody yet, which is good. But I think going forward, it's always a bit of a one I'm very mindful of and a bit concerned. 7 casual staff, they just come from April to September, just working on tractors and carting things. And then just a little bit more about our business, I suppose. We got wedding venue, we've got Wanstead Parks, it's camping and glamping. Obviously, I mentioned the AD plant, which is Agrigen, and actually I'm also director of 3Ms and SPL, which is our marketing business. So we're 5 farms all joining together. We market our produce together. So our potatoes and onions and carrots are all marketed as one business, basically. And then the owner of the farm also bought an airfield about 25 years ago now. And so that's Bentwaters Airfield. And then we also have a haulage and storage business in Ipswich. Just a few pictures of the Wanstead Valley and event centres. So it's quite nice in the park, in the forest, and then the campsite as well. So that only opened, actually that opened the year of COVID. We literally opened it a week before everything got shut down. So we then had to be a bit quiet, but never mind. And then Agrigen, our AD plant. So obviously that has worked. So again, we're a 25% shareholder in that, and that works very nicely for supplying maize rather than growing a spring barley or crop up on the farm. So we supply maize up onto that, and that has an appetite of about 55,000 tons of maize a year. And we grow our proportion of that, and obviously all the digestate is then split accordingly back to farms as well. 3Ms SPL are just two businesses. So we do actually pack, we grade, we can do generally most things. We export from there potatoes. So that all goes off. Yeah, so marketing 100,000 tons of potatoes each year, 25,000 tons over the grader, 5,000 tons to wholesale market, and then about 40,000 tons of onions. So it's quite a big business. We're obviously investing in that, camera graders, everything else, new robots. So it's the way things are going. Less people, more machinery. That's just, sorry, it is a video, but I won't show it. And then just a few things, obviously, you can see there of what we're doing up there. And that's it, really. I don't know if there's any questions. It's quite easy with you and I, though. I can't hear you, Katie.
Helps if I unmute myself. Thank you, Tim. How do the cover crops, or should I say, do the cover crops help improve the soil structure?
Yeah, I think they do, and that's why we keep doing it, to be fair. I think you've got to be a little bit careful about timing and how long you keep sheep on there. But I definitely, so we do use things like some radishes in there as well, which haven't got great nutritional value, but actually do a lot of benefit to the soil, basically. And also any brassica realistically has an effect on PCN, potato nematodes. So there is always a benefit, and obviously there is that recycling which a sheep should do in the muck going in the ground. It's never huge volumes, but at least it does help with that, I think.
Yeah, and the person last night speaking was saying about how their mixtures of lots of different species in their pastures was helping, and actually rather than just a single species in the field, if they've got multiple species in the field, the roots will go twice as deep because they've got to compete with the other species, which was actually which was really interesting. Do you get much wonky veg, and what do you do with that?
We inevitably do get wonky veg, but if we're honest, it goes straight back out and is graded out. So on the potato harvesters, that goes straight out and left on the field. Carrots is slightly different because we top lift, so we're lifting the tops. So we don't have the chance to knock out the wonky veg at that point. So it goes straight into a lorry and then up the road. So it's very quick. So that does go to the factory, and that's where that's graded out. But we don't have loads. We do our little bit of help with a local food bank. So we do give potatoes and onions to those, and actually they're quite happy to come and dig them. So we've got a field of leftover carrots this year, and they just dug themselves and helped themselves to it, to be fair. So
it always seems mad to me because whenever my parents grow carrots, they're never straight, and I think, well, how do they? It's probably the soil type that is quite different as well.
A lot of it is soil type, and we're growing at the correct densities and things like that. So inevitably they have to sort of go down. and we de-stone, so we sieve the soil, so they got nothing to stop them growing down. And also we're very careful of the nematodes and what could be eating the carrots and things. So yes, we have to be very mindful because it's a massive part of our business.
Yeah.
And
So,
carrots
and
are.
the pigs that come in, so you're not dealing with the pigs on a day-to-day basis. You've got somebody else managing and dealing with them.
Yeah. So we don't deal with the pigs on a day-to-day basis, so it's quite handy, really. I don't know if I'd want to. Is the pig industry is in such few hands now, and it's quite cutthroat, I think, realistically, and you have to be in it to make anything out of it. And I think, to be fair, this independent guy, he's really good, and he's been in it a long time. He's a clever old boy, and he's still doing it. I think that says quite a lot. He's still
Yeah.
doing pigs, and because there's not many independent guys left around here. Obviously, we've got Lawson's and Rattle Row. Yeah, there's BQP. There's quite a few big pig producers around here, but he's still independent. He's the only
Yeah.
one I think I know around here, actually, because everybody else has been bought out.
Yeah, but no, that sounds great how it sort of integrates and helps within your whole rotation for what you need to obviously prevent the various disease issues that you could have with both the carrots, onions, and potatoes.
Exactly, and it works quite well, and it does leave some nutrients there, and we've got to be mindful of how we mop all those nutrients up, and it's good. It is good, and it's quite nice. I like a little bit of livestock around. It's really good, I think, for the rotation. I think you've got to have an interest in it. Whatever you do, like sheep, some people hate sheep, but actually I quite like them. I quite enjoy it. So you have to have a like for them to be able to do it, and whatever business you're in, inevitably, if you have an interest in something, you'll try and make it work. And I think, that's what we've done basically. And we've tried to, utilize SFI and other government environmental schemes to try and make it work. With HLS, we did the same, particularly now with single farm payment going, you've got to try and get every bit of money you can out of every pot, I suppose. So, and that's what we have done in the past, and inevitably that's what we'll try and do in the future again. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess tweaking and changing things to suit those schemes and suit your farm as well. And also
Yeah.
you said before we actually started the recording, obviously the staff with the weather that we've had lately, you haven't been able to get the staff on to be planting. But I guess it's handy that you've at least got some sheep out there that are keeping at least one and a half of them busy,
Yeah.
whilst the others can't get on and get planting.
It's right. And actually, at the moment, we've been quite busy the last couple of weeks. We've shifted a lot of lambs off, and we've been weighing a lot of lambs. So actually, it's been two people most of the time the last couple of weeks. So it's been quite good. And inevitably, I really want to be getting quieter now anyway, because come really the 1st of March, I then really kick into gear and we'll get really busy with potatoes and everything else. So I want a lot of the sheet work done. So we're going through all the use and culling out anything which is bad and get rid of those, all those sort of things we try and do now. If it dried up a bit, I've got lots of dagging which needs to be done. We can do all that, all those sort of things. But it's wet and miserable at the moment, and the lambs are knee deep in mud, unfortunately. But yeah, it's not the ideal.
No, but the sun is going to come, and
It is.
spring is round the corner.
Yeah.
But no, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us and what you're doing on your farm, Tim. Apologies again that we had the technical issue previously, but we've resolved it and
Sorry.
we've done it now. So no, thank you very much for your time and for sharing what you do at Wanstead Farm.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
No worries.
Cheers.
Thank you.